ध्यायेत् शारदचन्द्रसुन्दरमुखम् ताम्रारविन्दक्षणम् भक्ताभीष्टवराभयप्रदकरम् कौपीनमोत्रोज्ज्वलम् स्वात्मानं तरसानुभूतिविवशम् सर्वानवद्याङ्गकम् श्रीमन्तं श्रीरमणीश्वरं गुरुवरं योगासनाध्यासितं ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणीश्वरम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणीश्वरम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणीश्वरम् हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् यहमहमिति साक्षादात्मरूपेण भाति हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वतामच्युत पवनचलनरोधा आत्मनिष्ठो भवत्वम्। Namo Ramana. In this Tuesday Atma Vichara session from Ramanacentre for Learning, Bangalore, we have been reading the reminiscences of Sri Mahakrishna Swami from the book Years in the Presence of Ramana, my Master. Mahakrishna Swami was in Brazil and started the Ramana ashram there. He is recollecting his reminiscences or his stay in Ramana ashramam, and it has been brought out as a wonderful book called Years in the Presence of Ramana, my Master, by Ramanacentre for Learning, Bangalore. And the original editing is done by our founder president, Sri A.R. Natarajanji. We have been looking at the section where Mahakrishna Swami is recollecting about the techniques that Bhagavan used for teaching. Continuing our reading, one of the visitors was leaving the ashram. Directing himself to Bhagavan, he asked, I am leaving. I don't know when I will return, and even if I will see you again. I am not as lucky as those who can benefit from your constant presence. How can the Master help me? At least think about me. I implore you, give me a place in your mind. Sri Ramana answered, He who is conscious of the divine does not have a mind. How can one without a mind remember someone or think about someone? Many imagine that the devotees who live closer to the Master receive special favors from him. If a master acts with partiality, he is not conscious of unity. He cannot let himself be affected by the people who serve him or by the work which they do. The Master is pleased. Here Natarajanji highlights this part. The Master is pleased by those who entirely surrender to the truth or being, who abandon their ego forever. These are protected wherever they may be, and do not even need to ask for help. The Supreme Self takes care of those who surrender to it. I repeat, the Master is pleased by those who entirely surrender to the truth or being, who abandon their ego forever. These are protected wherever they may be and do not even need to ask for help. The Supreme Self takes care of those who surrender to it. Bhagavan, being the Self, is saying what is that he would be very pleased. He will be pleased by those who entirely surrender to that one truth, to their own being. And they will not be and not attend to their ego forever. Anything which is objective appears to an entity. To whom does it appear? If we ask, it is I. So if one doesn't pay attention to that which appears and disappears, but pays attention to that on which all of this appear and disappear, their true being, their truth, Bhagavan is saying he is most pleased, and those people are protected wherever they may be. Because Bhagavan says that is Arunachala. Arunachala is the remedy for all our problem, he says. The Self is the remedy for all our problems. So wherever we are, that Self will definitely guide and protect us. And we need not even worry about what is the circumstances that surrounds us. Because the Supreme Self takes care of those who surrender, says Bhagavan. And that is what, as Bhagavan, encapsulated in Atma Vichara for us. No matter what circumstances rise and make our attention go to them, instead of getting encapsulated in that, by making us inquire, to whom is this, who am I, he makes us surrender to that truth. He makes us become one with that truth. And therefore, in that is the complete grace, the complete protection. The Self itself takes care. So it really doesn't matter whether we do that with a question, with an inquiry, or it becomes effortlessly natural for us. Either which way, if we can get back to the Self, if we can surrender to that one truth, Bhagavan is saying not only he will be pleased, he is also assuring that the Self will take care of all of our needs. Continuing, which the next paragraph too, here Natarajanji highlights it. Master Ramana had the ability of transforming all situations into sources for teaching. Even at first, they appeared commonplace or disagreeable. In one of our usual meetings after dinner, he explains, before coming here, some people have the most sincere purpose of self-elaboration. But after some time, they become accommodated. The mind overcomes them and they end up forgetting why they came to the ashram. They imagine they are doing a great favor in helping with the tasks, serving the Master, but they think a lot about themselves. The fact that they feel important in serving the Master blocks any possibility of self-consciousness. The detachment of actions destroy the ego. The path to consciousness is open, but to walk it, it is necessary to surrender oneself sincerely, cast our attachments, annihilate the profane ego. I repeat this paragraph once again. Master Ramana had the ability of transforming all situations into sources for teaching, even if at first they appeared commonplace or disagreeable. In one of our usual meetings after dinner, he explained, before coming here, some people have the most sincere purpose of self-elaboration, but after some time, they become accommodated, the mind overcomes them, and they end up forgetting why they came to the ashram. They imagine they are doing a great favor in helping with the tasks, serving the master, but they think a lot about themselves. The fact that they feel important in serving the master blocks any possibility of self-consciousness. The detachment of actions destroy the ego. The path to consciousness is open, but to walk it is necessary to surrender oneself sincerely, cast our attachments, annihilate the profane ego. Though we may say that when we are often as sadhakas, we get this kind of an ego that we are now on a spiritual path, or we are doing a very noble act. And these kind of thoughts gain a lot of attention. It makes the ego feel very proud. And because it is, as Nanda Kumarji was very beautifully explaining in one of the satsang, our whole journey to date has been that we are not happy with the way we were. Then we saw spirituality, or we read about Bhagavan, or we read about the path of righteousness or something, and we embarked in this spiritual journey. So we were not happy with the way we were. Then we came across a teaching, and then that teaching helped us scale ourselves from where we were to where we are today. We feel much more better than our past identity. But that again is all in the realm of the mind, all in the realm of the ego. Though it was a very positive aid, these teachings or something that we practiced was a very positive aid in uplifting us from our past mundane ways. But that itself can become a blockage for us, or that itself can become a thing that even today, when we have reached that our present state, we again still look for something higher to drive ourselves to a higher, better state of ourselves. So in a way, that seems to be our approach, and therefore there is still the ego lurking around, and we feel that we are now in a very better position to compare to many other people. We are doing better things than any other people. And this definitely, it appears to be very commonplace for some of us, and it could also become disagreeable. But let's read the first paragraph, first sentence. Ramana had the ability of transforming all situations into sources for teaching, even if at first they appeared commonplace or disagreeable. Even though this could be disagreeable, but Bhagavan had this great ability to transform us. That is the saving grace. No matter how many times these kind of thoughts that we are better than many might have taken the center stage, moved us from ourselves, made us get attached to a bloated ego. But Bhagavan's ability to transform even from such situations is the saving grace. It is what Mahakrishna Swami here highlights it. Because we are so much easy we are so at ease in attending to the thoughts. In fact, not attending to a thought seems to be very difficult for us. Attending to a thought seems to be so easily done, effortlessly done. If we have to let go a thought and remain, it seems to be very, very difficult. It seems to be a very conscious effort that we need to do. There are two reasons. One is that we are still identified with the thinker. We have not really put the question, to whom is this, who am I? And the question, who am I, the most important thing that Bhagavan is asking us to look at is, what do you really refer to yourself as? Who am I? So by that very question, is asking us to refer to ourselves as the true being, the truth, which is what we have to identify ourselves. And in there is no thinking, there is no ego to get bloated with. There is no entity there which gets carried away by the actions of the body, including like serving the master or anything. But until we are still identified with the thinker, all these possibilities of ourselves getting identified with a better I of us, or feeling better than others, or having done better than somebody else, may all rise in the mind space. But Bhagavan's grace is there. Mahakrishna Swami is saying, even though we are identified with the ego, we get identified with thoughts, and we feel that thoughts are something that we cannot live without, there Bhagavan's grace is there. He is making sure that though there are disagreeable thoughts, that his grace will make us transform. And where does it take? Until we recognize our true reality, until he makes us completely recognize our truth, and until he makes us establish ourselves in that natural truth. Bhagavan's grace doesn't let us go. And therefore, Bhagavan, by his abundant grace, by establishing ourselves in the truth, as he said in the earlier paragraph, he is ensuring that the greatest protection that we can get, because the Supreme Self itself then takes care of everything, is naturally assured for the devotee. Therefore, this path of self-enquiry which Bhagavan has given is such an important thing that we have to simply continuously keep on doing it. Though we may initially start with a very intellectual approach of trying to find out who am I, trying to find out this ego or this mind, and we believe all of them are real, and we try to deal with them. But if that's okay, says Bhagavan, if we keep on practicing it, though it is not the disagreeable, it's very disagreeable, his grace will make us go to that state which is agreeable, which is our own natural state of the self, and makes us recognize that as our true identity. So Mahakrishna Swami here, through this, is telling us how the techniques of Bhagavan was, that though many of it is disagreeable, though we are not identified ourselves with the natural truth, natural being, but his grace would ensure that we do it, because it was very evident that in that true state alone is the real protection for us, that we need not worry anything about. So Bhagavan here is reminding us, Mahakrishna Swami here, is reminding us of the natural and abundant grace of Bhagavan that is bestowed to us through self-enquiry. With Bhagavan's immense grace, with which alone we have come to this most direct path, let us practice Atma Vichara for the next 20 minutes. Revatima, can you help me with the timer since my mobile is busy? Thank you, ma. Thank you, Revatima. Namo Ramana Akka.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as a self in all beings. By the immense grace of the self manifest as Ramana, we in this part of the satsang are meditating on the verses of Ramana Gita, in which Bhagavan has answered the questions of Ganapati Muni and other seekers of truth, many of them being devotees or disciples of Ganapati Muni, on different aspects of sadhana, all of which have a bearing on our pursuit of self-enquiry. And we are presently on this in the 16th chapter, which is on the subject of bhakti. And bhakti is a subject which is very dear to all of us, because primarily it is love for Bhagavan that draws us to him. It is by his grace that we can love him, says Manikya Vachakar in Shiva Puranam. Avan arulale avan tal vanangi, he says. It is only because of his grace that we can prostrate at his feet, we can love him. Otherwise, where is love? And Bhagavan, in his Navamani Malai, he says, in Padikam, he says, Arunachala Padikam, Anbili Yanakun Anbinai Arulad Andanai Azhittidal Azhago. I don't have love for you, but you have governed me. Anbili Yanakun Anbinai Arulad Andanai Azhittidal Azhago. But you have governed me. So you should now give me love for you. You should plant love for you in my loveless heart. Otherwise, I will be destroyed, he says. So, bhakti, how does one cultivate bhakti? Can one cultivate bhakti? Can one cultivate the spirit of self-enquiry? We said that we must do our self-enquiry in order to have the experience of our own true nature. But for that also, we should have love, we should have bhakti for the self. Unless we have bhakti for the self, unless we have love for the self, will we turn towards it? Will we ask ourselves the question, who am I? If we have love for the body, why will we ask ourselves the question, who am I? It is because we have love for the self that we wish to turn inwards. And love for the self is the essential bhakti, says Bhagavan in the beginning of this chapter on bhakti. Atma priya samastasya priyam netaradatmanaha. The self is dear to everyone. What is bhakti? Bhakti is love. And what do we love? We love someone or something which is dear to us. Bhagavan says, Atma priya samastasya. The self alone is dear to everyone. Priyam netaradatmanaha, na itaradatmanaha. Nothing apart from the self is actually ever dear to anyone. It is only because of the self shining everywhere, in everything, that is all pervading, that all things become dear to us. We are attracted to something, says Bhagavan, by implication, only because the self is shining over there, whether we realize it or not. It is not for the object that we love the object, it is for the self that we love the object. When we recognize this, then what will happen? When we recognize that the self alone is dear to us, then whatever we are attracted to, we will be attracted to the self alone. We will understand this, that it is the self. We will see the self. We will enjoy the self in all the objects. Then what happens? The love does not get broken. Whereas now our love is broken into pieces. Little love for A, little love for B, some more love for C, some more love for D. Like that, it is compartmentalized. It's as if we have split our love into pieces and we are giving it to so many people, so many objects, and we may think I love A more than B, or I love to sing, or I love to dance. So our love is broken up into pieces and given in different places, we think. But what happens when we recognize that all this is only love for the self? Then there is no more division in our love. There are no more breakages in our love. And Bhagavan says, at that time, Achinna Taila Dharavat Pritir Bhakti Rudakrita. Then love just flows like an uninterrupted stream of oil. When oil is poured into the yajna, when oil is poured somewhere, there are no breaks, it is said. When we pour water, there is an interruption. Water flows in a disjointed manner. But oil or ghee, they all flow. Such substances, these two examples are given, they flow without any break. It is just one continuous flow. Even honey, if you pour it, it will just be one continuous flow. There will be no break in. So, Achinna Taila Dharavat Pritir Bhakti Rudakrita. So, such love, which is continuous, because it has no divisions in it. Such love is called Bhakti, says Bhagavan. And such a one knows, the learned one knows that God and the self are not different. The self which one worships itself is God. God is the self. Abhinnam swatmata pritya vijanatishwaram kavihi. Kavi is the seer, the one who knows. Here he calls the seer as Kavi. Because Kavi is the Rishi, or the Kavi is the one who has a vision. The vision of the truth. Here he is telling Bija Abhinnam swatmata pritya. He loves God not as apart from himself. And this knowledge is the true knowledge. But what if a devotee is seeing God as apart and loving him? If we do not have the awareness of the self, then we will not know that God and the self are one. We are told. Bhagavan is telling us God, Guru and self are one. But if it is not our anubhava, then we see God, we see Bhagavan as apart from us. Janannapya paro bhinnam lina atmani tishtati. But if I see God as apart from me, even then, if I merge in him, if one merges into God, then one abides only as a self, because God and the self are in fact not different. So whether one merges in the self or whether one merges in God, how will one merge in God? How does one merge in something which one sees as apart from oneself? By continuous thought of that. As Bhagavan says, Taila Dharavat. If there is constant thought of God, then gradually all other thoughts will get obliterated. All other objects will disappear and it will become Ekachintana. So when there is only one single object, with the intensity of the thought of that object, even the thought of oneself will dissolve, and then one merges into the God. This is called Savikalpa Samadhi. So when one merges into God in this manner, after some time, the intensity of that Samadhi, that Eka Chintana, will make that also dissolve. In another way, in self-enquiry practice, Nanda Kumarji often tells us that this Ishvara is the Aham Spurana. Recently, in his sharing with us at the Ramana Shrine, Ramanacentre Swami also told us that. That is, you have to hold that Aham Vritti in isolation. Nanda Kumarji says that is Ishvara. That Maham Spurana is Ishvara. So when one lets go of all thoughts and holds on to that Maham Spurana alone, then that also dissolves, leaving behind abidance in the self, says Bhagavan. So, what if I don't want self-abidance? I only have love for God? Is a question which is posed, implied question which is posed, that Bhagavan says, Vahanti taila dharavat ya priti parameshware anichatopi sa buddhim swarupam nayati dhruvam. If love for God just keeps flowing uninterrupted love for God is just flowing like the unbroken flow of oil, even if one has not thought about self-abidance, even if one has not desired self-abidance, it will come, says Bhagavan, that love for God will lead to Atmanishtha. Then Bhagavan says, supposing one is not thinking of oneself, not even having the great love for God, but one is only having the thought of one's own suffering and wants God to give relief from that suffering. What happens then? Parichinnam yadatmanam swalpajnam chapi manyate bhakto vishayi rupena tada klesha nivrittaye. So, even when one regards oneself as a limited being, I am a limited being, God, you are supreme, I don't know about merger in you, I have lot of problems in life. I want relief from these problems. If one constantly prays to God only to God for relief from the problems, if one has total faith that God alone is the answer for all one's difficulties, in the end, such a one will also attain the supreme, says Bhagavan. We may not be thinking of God even in order to merge in Him, not even with love for Him. Such is God's love that even if we turn to Him for all our difficulties, with the full faith that God alone is our support, we are bound to merge in the Supreme. We find that many devotees are there who came to Bhagavan because of their affliction, because of their difficulty. We have Manavasi Ramaswamy here coming because of these terrible physical suffering from peptic ulcer, for which he had no remedy, no cure. He could not find any answer anywhere. And he came to Bhagavan and he told Bhagavan, "You please save me, Bhagavan." And Bhagavan told him, "Why do you come to me? I am not a doctor. I am not an astrologer who will tell you, do this, do that." Apparently, astrologers will give cures for all the maladies, some methods. So Bhagavan said, "I am not an astrologer, I am not a Jyotisha." And Manavasi Ramaswamy Iyer told him, "Bhagavan, when everything else fails, we come to Bhagavan. When everything else fails, we come to Bhagavan." So we have the affliction. Our affliction could be physical, our affliction can be emotional, our affliction can be in our spiritual journey also, because when we hold a goal, when we say, "I have to attain something, I have to attain self-knowledge, I have to do my self-enquiry," I might find myself very much wanting. I am likely to find myself very much wanting. And I will say, "Oh my God, I am not able to hold on. Dheeramil lagatil tedi undanayan thirumbavutren arul arunachala." I am afflicted. Life is full of sorrow. So much of sorrow is there in life. If it is not one's sorrow, one can see how much of sorrow is there around oneself. So, seeing somebody else's sorrow can also be very painful to one who is sensitive to it. Seeing the sorrow in the world, Buddha was so sensitive to it that he wanted to find a permanent solution. And we find people like Ichamal coming to Bhagavan after having lost her husband, her children, having no succor whatsoever. And Bhagavan's presence gave her the solace. Service to Bhagavan gave her the solace. And then what else did she have in her life except Bhagavan? So Bhagavan says, even if a person comes to the Supreme because of some suffering, because of some problem, because of some desire, ultimately one becomes one with the Supreme, which is none other than the Self. So what Bhagavan is saying is, it's okay, be related to God in some way. It is far better than not being related to God. Have little bhakti because of faith also. Even that will do. Even that will do. So it is important to be related to God, because the more we are related, the more bhakti will grow. That is what Bhagavan will tell us later in the chapter. The more we think of something, attention or bhakti comes by attention. The more we think about something, the more we want to think about that. The less we think, the more we move away from that particular thing. If I keep on thinking of a particular person, then that person becomes more and more dear to me. If I completely forget about a person, that person is not dear to me. The less I think about a person, that person ceases to be dear or undear or related in any way. Even if one hates the Supreme, in our tradition of Sanatana Dharma, even if you hate the Supreme, it is all right, because you have a intense relationship with the Supreme. Have an intense relationship with the Supreme. If one is angry, let us be angry with God. If one is disappointed, let us be disappointed with God. If one is happy, let us be happy with God. Bhagavan says, it is the self alone which is all pervading, and self alone which is dear in all the objects. So let us see that God alone is the answer. God alone is the difficulty. God alone is everything. So when we start relating to God in any way, and then build that relationship by thinking of Him more and more and more, from our side, make it all pervasive in whichever way we can, He also appears to us more and more as that truth and takes us undoubtedly back to His own kingdom, Sadhu Om Swami says in one of his songs, Kondu Selvare Oru Dinam Nidaya Gugayil Ramana Guru Nadan. Bhagavan will surely take us back to the heart cave. One day, he says, that day may be even now, that is up to him. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramana.
Namo Ramana. Apara Satchit Sukhavarirashi Yasyormimatram Bhuvanam Samastam Guhahitam Tam Ramanam Gabhiram Chinta Vihinam Hridi Chintayami Chinta Vihinam Hridi Chintayami. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana.